one of the biggest, most prolific narcissists to ever walk the face of the earth. If you want to study narcissism, look into the eyes of this psycho. If you want to look into his history, how he devastated people, and what's not talked about enough is the effect he had on the relationships of family, friends, and children even that he interfered with. Not just the people he murdered, the people that remain alive and have to live with the legacy that he left behind and the damage he done. The psychological damage of being one of the biggest con artists in the world to ever walk the face of the earth. He was able to manipulate young women. There was a certain type of woman that he could pinpoint from a distance. And he just knew that he would be able to do what he needed to do to get what in his world supply was killing. It was like a high for him. Molly Kendall. She knew Ted as her daddy for years. She trusted him. She loved him. If you look into her eyes, you can see the sadness. When you hear her talk, you can feel the guilt she feels. Why on earth should this lady feel guilty for a psycho? Mental abuse. Because he convinced her that her self did not matter. Her being was an extension of him. And as I analyze this, I have a gut feeling that a lot of his murders were motivated by her because she sincerely, innocently loved him. So imagine, he projected, he couldn't stand that because they can't stand being loved. So he couldn't stand it. So he went out and had to murder her, but he couldn't really murder her because he'd get caught because he lived with her. He was raising her as his own daughter. So he went out and found someone that reminded him, had the innocence of her, and killed them. Now, I could be wrong, but I guarantee that she feels the same way. She feels that she motivated some of the crime. So in that sense, that's where that feeling of self-loathing or guilt, survivor's guilt, you know, but she has nothing to be guilty about. This was Molly Kendall's mom. And if you look at her, she looks, even though she's in her 20s, I think there, young 20s, she looks like a teenager. So, you know, she's tiny, you know, he could probably feel a little bit, you know, more manly, because obviously he didn't feel very manly. He had to go prove himself. Her life also seemed very, very destroyed, and I think she still lives with denial about the fact that she loved a psychopath who killed so many women. This was Richard Bundy, Ted's brother. Another person that seems like his life has been extremely traumatized and extremely disenfranchised and traumatized is all you can say. I'm not going to say ruined because no one can say that about another person, but he seems as if he's struggling. because he as well loved his brother, grew up loving him, putting him on a pedestal. And guess what? He also feels the guilt, feeling he couldn't have done. How could he not have known? How could he have not done something to stop it? You see what the narcissist does? Do you see the effect the narcissist has on the victims? Not the ones he murders, the ones he leaves behind. Look, narcissism is mental cruelty. It needs to be addressed in the court systems the way physical abuse is addressed. I'm not certain that physical abuse is even addressed in the country's courts. I have had minor experiences, and I can't compare my experience to anyone who's had more devastating situations, but there's definitely a lack of trust from victims who get re-victimized in the court system. Mental abuse from narcissism is a crime, and it needs to be addressed as such.